but everybody watching should prepare to get about 2 minutes dumber.
I want to thank you for doing this today. I want to thank you for your compassion. You know, the reason I'm so excited to talk to you was because I wanted to understand the tragedy in your life and how you dealt with it. And you're the kind of leader I love because we're lucky to have you in the Oval Office and serving as the father of the country. Because if you're a good father to your family, which you are, I know you'd be a good father to the country. And I want to thank you for providing a calming influence.
I'm gonna pause it there for 1 second. I know I should let this play and then double check that I'm live on all platforms. You're a good father, and I know that you're a good father. What did he say there?
With it. And you're the kind of leader I love because we're lucky to have you in the Oval Office and serving as the father of the country. Because if you're a good father to your family, which you are.
If you're a good father to your family, which you are, I'll throw in the conclusion there. Not that I could pretend to know what type of father Joe Biden is or has been. I know what his kid says about him, that she thinks she might have been molested by him when he took showers with her at an inappropriate age. I know what happened to Hunter Biden as a human. And I don't say, the apple doesn't fall from the tree. But I would have questions as to what kind of father Joe Biden was. I've seen the videos of him sniffing children, and I have a question as to what type of father he is now. I'm going to let this play so you can all barf in your mouths, swallow the barf it back up again, and then it makes you barf even more because you're swallowing your own barf. Disgusting. This is vomitous. I haven't listened to Adam Sandler, to freaking Howard Stern since before the pandemic. We had that Ford Explorer, and it came with Siri. Holy cows. It's like one idiot old man interviewing a senile old man. I didn't watch the entire interview, and I'm not going to. Enjoy this. Ugh.
I know you'd be a good father to the country, and I want to thank you for providing a calming influence, an organized administration post-COVID, getting that vaccine out. I remember what the world was like at that point, getting NATO, getting us to feel comfortable, standing up to Putin, the incredible
Can you believe
large
this crap?
growth in the jobs, unemployment rate down. I'll give you your greatest hits. The lowest uninsured rate in history. 4 out of 5 Americans are covered for less than $10 a month. Knocking off a few ISIS leaders, cutting the emissions in half. I mean, you've always been an environmentalist. Even the marijuana reform laws, enough with sitting there and fighting that battle. Respect for Marriage Act. What the hell is with people with this gay stuff? Who cares if someone's gay?
Very few people, Howard. Did he just give Joe Biden credit for the jab? I mean, this is like turning into a contentious point on both ends. You got one guy, Trump, who wants to take credit for Operation Warp Speed and the production of that garbage in, garbage out jibby jab. And then they're giving this schnook credit for the garbage in, garbage out jibby jab because they can't bring themselves to give it to the person who they should give it to if they think it was a success. Holy hell. I mean, it's like Trump derangement syndrome literally rots the brain. It rots it into a disgusting, moldy, brown avocado. That's what his brain, it's not a little pink foldy thing anymore. It's a brown, shriveled, rotten avocado. Let's let this play.
How is it affecting anybody? People in love, it's good, right? Love is good.
My dad said, we saw 2 men kissing one another in Rodney Square.
First, I didn't understand a word he just said. I mean, look, I know you got to get your sentences started sometimes, and the first sentence might be an or a but or a so. I didn't understand a word he just said.
When I was going in to get a license, I looked at him and he said, Joey, it's simple. They love each other.
That's it. That's how I look at it.
You know who deserves credit? The American people are relentless.
This is like someone slowed it down. Let me rephrase. This is like 2 drunk idiots, and you recorded the conversation, and then you slowed it down to 0.75 to make it even more preposterous. Howard Stern, how the mighty have fallen. Holy hell. You thought COVID got to him. And now you know what he's trying to do right now, because he credits himself or blames himself for having gotten Trump elected. Am I wrong on this? No, I think he faults himself for having gotten Trump elected because he did a podcast with Trump. And everyone said, well, he looked, very personable. And some people credited, I'm going to double check that while I let this play. And now he's trying to do the same thing with Biden.
American people are stepping up. Who are they vote for? They just never give up. We're the most unique country in the world. We really are.
We are, but I don't want to lose it.
We're not going to lose it. God willing.
Thank you for doing this.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate
Mr.
it.
President. Look at me sitting with the president.
Look at me sitting with Howard Stern.
Wow. I mean, you can tell people this is the most important event in your lifetime.
I'll tell them that.
By the way, Biden posted that as a win. An unhinged, demented, TDS-afflicted COVID fool, Howard Stern, and then 2 minutes of incomprehensible jibber-jabber from Biden. Trat, please tell me that I'm not going crazy. Howard Stern interviewed Donald Trump, and it was people... I feel like I might be misremembering something there. Did I say Alex Stern? I mean, Alex Stein? Howard Stern, not Alex Stern. But I need to go and make sure. We're live across the interwebs, people. I'm just going to go to locals. Locals, didn't Howard interview Trump? And I'm going to see this here. Oh, it's so wild. And you're like, everything about it is wrong. There's another one. No, it's not from the Howard Stern interview. This is from the that whatever they call it, the correspondence dinner. It's beyond what is otherwise. Oh, no. I did have a second highlight from this one. Listen to this. This is Howard Stern. This goes to show you the strength of his reasoning, his mental acuity, his political IQ. Listen to this. He's got the solution, people.
Can I tell you a fantasy I had? I don't know if you're going to debate your opponent.
Can't say his name. Can't say his name, Howard.
This is how I would handle it.
Dude.
Tell me if I'm nuts.
You're not nuts. You're stupid.
Tell me if this is accurate.
What's it?
I would stand there on stage with Trump and I would repeat over and over again, excuse me, please find me 11,000 votes so that I can win the election. I would just repeat that over and over again. And then I'd say to the audience, what are we debating? A man picked up the phone and wanted to say, fake the election, give me 11,000.
Look at this face right here. You tell me this guy knows what the hell's going on? This is elder abuse. This is dementia abuse. And he's taking advice from the biggest jackass on the radio now? Holy cows. What makes me feel sick is that I remember when Howard Stern came to Quebec and he said it was in 1996 or 1997. I remember I was on my way to Cégep at the time. And he used to be a champion for free speech. He used to be over the top edgy. And then he became the machine. And look at him interviewing this walking man who can barely string a sentence together.
I don't know how any American who loves this country, that's the end of the debate. You don't get to run if you're going to fix an election.
On January,
you get to run if you're going to fix an election.
January 6th, when they were storming the Capitol.
And a police officer died.
A police officer died. Brian Sicknick, who they said was murdered by a mob of pro-Trump supporters, smashed in the head with a fire extinguisher, apparently had a stroke and died from what even the DC coroner medical expert determined was natural causes. I have my questions as to what might have contributed to his stroke, but set that aside. Liars, just idiot liars.
Say nothing. He was sitting in that office off the.
Oh, he was sitting there saying nothing.
Dining area off the Oval Office for 3 hours and said nothing. I was supposed to make a speech on the economy that day. Instead, I made a speech I was in Delaware on that issue because I was elected president, but I wasn't sworn in yet. It was derelict. It was almost criminal. He did nothing. He just sat there and watched what was happening.
He didn't say patriotically, peacefully. He didn't put up 2 videos, said, oh no, but that was 2 hours into it. Liars. And I don't know who listens to Howard Stern anymore. I think that might be the saving grace. I think maybe our Sunday show gets more viewers than Howard Stern. And I'm not saying that because we're a massive show. I don't know who watches Howard Stern anymore. He once was the biggest draw for Siri. If he is now, holy crab apples, a lot of people are getting lied to in real time.
And now he wants to he calls them patriots and victims. And it says he's going to pardon them all. If
they are victims. Many of them are patriots, and they all should be pardoned. And I would once upon a time said, even the violent ones, even the ones who committed bona fide acts of violence, at this point should be pardoned because the punishment undoubtedly did not fit their crimes. Holy crab apples. Howard Stern has jumped the shark without a doubt. Good evening, everybody. Viva Fry, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler. This is our Sunday show with Robert Barnes. We are live across the interwebs, as we should be. We are on Rumble. We are at vivabarneslaw.locals.com, where Suez Canal says, I can't take this, muting it until this part is over. My apologies. And then there's a picture of Joe Biden sniffing a little girl who doesn't seem very happy about it. Rogan is greater than Stern, says Dictum, 1,000%. Spewing lies about January 6th. Lies. They were violent. A police officer died. Yeah, a police officer died. When you get a lot of people together, people sometimes die from natural causes after you lied about what they died from. You know who didn't die from natural causes? Ashley Babbitt. You know who didn't die from natural causes? Roseanne Boyland. Didn't die from natural causes. They died from, one got summarily executed by a police officer, shot point blank. And then they claimed he's the hero. And the other one allegedly got beaten and stomped, trampled to death. And they tried to pass her death off as a methamphetamine overdose, not being able to distinguish between amphetamine, methamphetamine, and then there's a prescription drug that she was on, because there was an article that came out in the Epoch Times that said, yeah, she was on one of those ADHD medications, and it has something that ends in amphetamine. It's not a methamphetamine, but they can easily be confused, to pass her death off at the hands of police officers as a drug overdose, medical emergency. Oh, and people believe these lies. I'm not going to rail on someone any harder than I did today on Twitter. I think lessons have been learned. I am, however, going to put on blast the degree to which we have been lied to. Hold on. I wanted to start with this, but it's a silent video, and so it wouldn't have made much sense if I didn't explain what was going on. This is, from what I understand, relatively newly released footage. I know that I've never seen it, as relates to January 6th. Remember that insurrection, the insurrection where they stayed within the velvet rope in most places. There was some violence there, but there's a big difference between a protest turned a little violent, less violence than some hockey riots that I've been to. There's a difference between a protest that gets violent and an insurrection. I'll show you what an insurrection does not look like. And for those who are listening on podcast format tomorrow at, what is it? Viva Barnes Law for the People on Podbean. It's all Viva Fried, Viva Barnes Law for the People. It's on Podbean. I'll tell you what we're looking at right now. Here's a screen grab that says lectern theft suspect faces charges. And we're watching a video of the alleged lectern theft. Now, if you're watching the video, look in the back. There's a guy walking in carrying a lectern. Turns around with the lectern, puts it down on the ground. I guess maybe it was a little... Oh, no, he's taking pictures now. People are taking pictures of him as he carries a lectern from the entrance of the rotunda. I think that's what this is. And he walks into the center of the rotunda. Now he's talking to somebody. That's the lectern guy, by the way. That's Adam Johnson right there. This is the theft. And he places the lectern directly... he might have overshot the center a little bit. That annoys my OCD. But he places the lectern in the middle of the rotunda, poses for a photograph. American flags behind him. This is an insurrection, by the way. There's a guy carrying a Trump flag, staying within the velvet rope. Nobody's throwing anything at the paintings. Nobody's desecrating, defecating, denigrating. Nobody's doing anything. Oh, lectern guy takes a picture, turns around, does something with his phone, takes some more pictures, talks to a dude. People are walking through with flags on weapons, as some people would say, because as I discovered in my interview with Jason Palmer, some people are under the impression that when they refer to weapons, and I'm putting it in quotes, on January 6th, they were including flagpoles. There was a pocket knife that was found there in a medical emergency kit. They were including as the weapons to commit insurrection, and these are all in quotes, people listening, pepper spray. Whoever had a baseball bat, who was it? It was Jake Lang, who, a baseball bat appeared. But yeah, the baseball bat's, that's an insurrectionary weapon right there. Then we have the guy, Adam Johnson, lectern guy, takes a few pictures, and he's walking off, and he leaves the lectern in the middle of the rotunda. That's it, people. And then there's some people who don't believe that he was charged with theft. That has been swiftly righted. It was in the charging documents. Theft of government property. There were people who believed he was violent. And then, by the way, this is the rest of the insurrection. I just fast forwarded it all the way so we can see a bunch of ants running around. Oh, they may have knocked over the velvet rope, and then there was a little smoke, which I presume was from when the cops got in. But yeah, there are people who believe that Adam Johnson got violent. And they could see the evidence and still not come to a different conclusion. And by the way, that evidence wasn't publicly available at the time. When they were telling us that this guy stole a lectern, they who charged him knew what they had in their hands. They knew that they had Rotunda CCTV footage. They knew it was a lie. Overcharge, coerce, extort a plea on lesser charges, and then you could say, we got him. He admitted to it. He's guilty of theft because he took a lectern and moved it 20 feet and then did a funny little posy pose of a speech in the middle of the rotunda. Oh, Lordy. He was saying from day one he moved it just a few feet. I believe it was 20 feet. And I believe the statute might say that there's a certain distance after which it becomes theft, 20, 30 feet, whatever it is, or maybe 10, 15 meters. They had that footage. They had that evidence. They still overcharged him. They still put him in solitary for, I think it was 70 some odd days. He was in jail with a substantial amount in solitary. They still ran with the lie. The media says he stole a lectern. And then people still refuse to believe that they were lied to. They have false memory syndrome, and they don't want to admit that they were gullible enough to have been duped by the lies of mainstream media, of the government that's there to protect them. And then you got Howard Stern out there repeating the bullshit lie that a police officer died, suggesting it was as a result of what happened on January 6th. And you get Joe Biden calling them insurrectionists, suggesting that Trump did nothing. They deplatformed him. They took down those 2 videos on Twitter that he put up, telling them to go home. We are the party of law and order. He said it in his speech beforehand, and then you have a bunch of agitators, arguably feds and not so arguably feds, the Ray Epses of the world, directing people into the Capitol. That's where our problems lie. Oh my goodness gracious. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Whew. I don't feel any better. I don't expect anybody else to feel any better. But you might feel better if you haven't been feeling too good. If our sponsor of the evening, people, the good folks at the Wellness Company, hold on, I'm going to share the screen so we can see it. And you all know the Wellness Company. They have the contagion kits, I think they call it. You know, the emergency kit, the thing that you need to have when the poo-poo hits the fan and the government that you think is there to take care of you starts locking you down and giving you all the worst advice on earth. Can you believe that back in the day, they said, go get this jibby jab and you get a free burger. There's a lottery for it. If you go get it, you run the chance of winning $1 million. Oddly enough, your chances might have been greater of winning another lottery. Did you get vaccinated? I'm not even calling it. Did you get the jab? Either because you were coerced to keep your job, or you thought you were doing the right thing, or you had, nagging people who were also misled and duped, saying, do it, what's the big deal? Or you were perhaps naive and ignorant like me, and you said, what's the worst that can happen? Now you know. Are you nervous about the many health problems that have now been documented, despite the online Twitter army of people telling you safe and effective, even though they've stopped taking it, and even though 2 of the 5 of them suffered one of those small myocarditis things? No. If you're worried, you're not alone. Fortunately, there's help. Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Harvey Risch, Chief Medical Board of the Wellness Company, have formulated an unmatched supplement that may help with all of these issues. You guys heard me talk about it. The Wellness Company's the emergency kit. It's got the stuff that you might not be able to get during a time of crisis. They also have something called the Spike Support Formula. You'll hear smarter people than me say that it's the gold standard in combating spike protein, the toxic substance found at the root of almost all the problems related to the jibby jab. The Wellness Company doctors hear from people like you every day saying they've never felt the same since getting the certain unnamed medical procedure. So what can you do to get back to feeling like you used to? The Wellness Company's Spike Support Formula. You've got daily supplement to help you get back to feeling your best. Reclaim your health. twc.health/Viva. Promo code Viva, 10% off, and you get free shipping. And they are the good folks doing the good work. Standard disclaimers, actually, which I didn't say. No medical advice, no election fortification advice, no legal advice. These things here, these wonderful things that you call super chats and Rumble called Rumble Rants. YouTube takes 30% of that. If you don't want to support tyranny, if you want to support the channel and to have it be maximum value added to myself and Robert, Rumble Rants, Rumble takes 0%. So that's a more effective way of doing it. Support a free speech platform, and you more goes to the creator. For the rest of the year, 100% goes to the creator. You want to support us? Really? The most effective way is go to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. $10 a month, $100 a year if you buy the entire year. A ton of exclusive stuff for supporters, a ton of open stuff for all members. It's a wonderful above average community. Now, also, by the way, I almost forgot to make the big announcement. I would be going back behind the Iron Rainbow on May 10th for a free speech protest rally event that's being held by Rumble. I'll bring up the thing when Barnes comes in, but we're going to have an event in Toronto where we're going to be sounding the alarm, raising the red flag as to the global encroachments on freedom of speech. On this panel, if you want to call it that, I'll be doing my live. It's not a panel. I'm doing my live stream from Toronto, where we will be vehemently protesting the benefits of our God-given right of free speech. Kimberly Guilfoyle, Don Jr., me, Ezra Levant, David Menzies. I'm going to forget her name. I'm going to feel bad if I forget it. I better pull up the thing because I forgot a couple of other people. It's going to be amazing. So stay tuned for that. Now, while I pull that up, I'm going to bring up Barnes because I see him in the backdrop. Oh, have we got so much to talk about tonight? Barnes, bringing you in. Sir, how goes the battle?
Good. Sound okay?
It sounds good. I'm going to go double check while I do two things. But as you do that, Robert, and as I check, Titanic or Olympic, do I ask what the book is about? Are we going down like that Titanic, or are we succeeding like Mount Olympic? I don't know what that is, but let me see what the audios go. Go for it, Robert.
The book is a birthday gift from one of our board members. It came out to the Vegas 50th birthday bash fundraiser for 1776 Law Center. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, so I don't know. Maybe it's a hush style book. Not sure yet. So but look, see, it was a very nice, one of the many generous gifts, and so I look forward to taking it in.
Robert, here I'm going to bring this up just so that I can make sure that I missed people here. This is from the Rebel News. Okay, so you got Don Jr., Ezra Levant, Sheila Gunn Reid, David Menzies, Chris Pavlovsky, CEO of Rumble, the Kimberly Guilfoyle, that's me back there, and Glenn Greenwald. So it's going to be amazing. And from what I understand, we're all basically doing our shows live from Toronto behind the Iron Curtain. Robert, it's been one hell of a week.
You're telling me.
I listened to your Bourbon with Barnes last night while I'm jogging, and it made my exercise twice as hard. Look, I guess tell us what's on the menu. We'll start with the on the top one here before we go over to Rumble. But what's on the menu for this week?
We got the trial in Pennsylvania that I just actually did at last minute notice. But it's about bigger issues than just that particular trial. It goes to the right to open access to courtrooms attempting to criminalize recording open court proceedings in order to, quite frankly, cover up corruption in the legal system. We got farmers imprisoned in Pennsylvania. There are a couple of workers who work with the farmers, and they have a hearing now scheduled for Monday afternoon. We'll be getting into what the latest is on that case. The Supreme Court, Trump immunity was argued this week. The homeless issue and whether or not you can be put in prison for involuntary behavior, and the federal preemption over state abortion law was all the oral arguments this week before the Supreme Court. We got President Trump was in trial in New York, and his bail issue went before the court. And Good Logic continues to fight Joe Neerman to end the unconstitutional Trump gag order.
Let me stop you there so that people don't confound a dangling modifier. Good Logic is Joe Neerman. He's not. So
yes.
Good Logic continues to fight. That's Joe Neerman. He's okay. Sorry, just make clear.
Exactly. Good Logic, like LAWGIC. Very New York pronunciation of the word law. The Harvey Weinstein has his case reversed, his conviction reversed by the New York appellate courts. It's the folks involved in the Backpages case have a bunch of judicial acquittals issued. In that case, Arizona is busy following up on Georgia and Michigan and indicting people for contesting elections. We have Hunter Biden claims immunity, and he might be right. And we have pure butter ain't really butter. And, of course, the case that I'll be attending to this week, Wednesday, in Beaumont, Texas, in federal district court. Brooke Jackson against Pfizer goes to oral argument on the government's motion to dismiss on the issue that apparently President Trump thinks is a big winner for him. He thinks that him championing the COVID vaccine is going to be the big issue that gets him to win over Robert Kennedy. According to his campaign manager, it should be his number one issue. He's busy talking about it now repeatedly. We'll discuss whether or not that's the soundest legal and political strategy anyone's ever heard.
Well, in a very informal poll that I'm conducting on Twitter, it's only got 10,000 votes or 9,600. Do you think Trump is right for continuing to tout his perceived success of the COVID jab? 73.8% say no. So I'm going to share that with everybody so they can go let us know what they think. Holy hell, Robert. No, let me do three things first. I just want to read these three because I brought them up. With all the lawfare going on, insane college protesters, and tornadoes, I need a serenity prayer more than ever. Cheryl, we got it, but I'm not sure that it was the way we wanted it. No, Biden. Oh, Biden said Alex Stern, LOL, and they put it out. I'm convinced Biden wins. That Twitter handle is trying to make Biden look terrible, not good. And the psychological desperation needed to ham up January 6th as an insurrection is only possible because of a repressed knowledge of summer 2020. How many hundreds of people got murdered during the summer of love? That's a good point, by the way, Ian Inkster. Robert, what I was going to say was this. It wasn't on the menu, and I don't know if it's going to bump the whatever was going to be our first one. If Kristi Noem was intended to be a sabotage on Trump, what would she be doing differently? I'll preface this.
Apparently, she's taking the same kind of advice that Trump is currently taking from his campaign manager, longtime corporate lobbyist, Pfizer ties, Susie Wiles. Think of her as a Wile E. Coyote.
No, hold on. I think it was Susan Wiles, not Wiley, right?
Maybe it's Wiles. Maybe it's Wiles.
It was one of the other.
It's at whichever one it is. But she's basically running the campaign now, and she's a longtime corporate lobbyist going way back. Pfizer ties, big food ties, big defense industry ties. Basically, the swamp is running President Trump's current presidential campaign, and she's been the one promoting Tim Scott. For example, her lobbying company has tight ties to Boeing. They got a lot of money from Boeing over the years. As it does Tim Scott, as did Nikki Haley. So but ideas like Kristi Noem are the ones being floated by a range of those kind of people, and it's as politically daft as some of the other advice that's circling President Trump at the moment.
I'm not partaking in that nonsense of post a picture of your dog if you haven't shot it. Growing up, we had a bull mastiff. We got him from a farm. We know that the farmer, when the dad of our dog got too old, he was a 240-pound dog. He took him over to a hole and he shot him and put him in the hole because the dog was too big and too heavy to move. I wouldn't do it like that, and I won't judge a farmer who does it like that. That being said, I doubt that person would have taken to Twitter or written in a book as a mark of character. We also had a dog.
Most people don't go around bragging. I mean, when farmers or others have to put a dog down, it's not something they go around and brag about in a book and brag about in social media. But she's that politically dense.
Oh, and everybody knows we had a bull mastiff who viciously attacked two people, and it was after my parents got sued. He attacked a second kid, then he attacked a neighbor, and we had to put the dog down. We didn't shoot him. We all sobbed like babies, brought him over to the vet, and splurged the $100 to do it in a non-violent, peaceful manner. I can appreciate not everybody has maybe the financial luxury of doing that, but again, you don't brag about having shot a 14-month-old dog. It's not a puppy, and it's old enough. You'll know if it has a problem, but you can try to find a new home. I always said that dog that attacked people, he would have been the best dog fight dog, or he would have been like a great cartel dog because the dog got turned on by the sound of like crying and predatorial noises. He was something was wrong with him, but it's a traumatizing event.
Secretly, they're all wolves in disguise, right? That's what the dogs are, and the cats are secretly tigers in disguise.
Yeah, but you know what the thing is? Even a wolf would stop when it hears a kid crying. Like that dog that we had was a liability, and but for the grace of God, nothing terrible.
Yeah, I can imagine.
No, and we put it down. It was it's devastating.
You have to at some point, and sometimes it's not economically affordable, but it's politically daft to be going around and bragging about it. I mean, it's just it shows the disconnect. She was never a good VP choice. We did a poll this weekend at vivabarneslaw.locals.com of who the board members liked, and I think their opinions represent a large part of the populist base of Trump's voter base. and their three favorites are J.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, and Ben Carson. And right now, J.D. Vance is in the lead. We interviewed J.D. He would brag about his grandma owning a big gun, but not because they went and killed some little dog, right? I mean, that's the difference between politically clued in and politically clueless. Tim Scott would be a horrendous choice. Kristi Noem would have been a terrible choice, but I assume her candidacy is DOA at this point. But you never know. Apparently Trump is talking to DeSantis as well. We'll see if that's anything anywhere. But what Trump should take is the populist direction. Now, of course, people like J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard and Ben Carson would tell him not to run on the vaccine, to in fact run on the Brooke Jackson case about how Pfizer lied to him and lied to the administration and lied to the American people and caused a lot of deaths. Right now, unfortunately, Trump is going in the other direction at the moment.
And it's not like I put out a tweet yesterday. Like someone's got to grab him by the shoulders and shake him, or metaphorically speaking, slap some sense into him. It's so stupid. He thinks he's going to get in the good graces of the Howard Sterns, who, if they think the jab was good, is still going to give credit to Joe Biden, even though he had nothing to do with that awful Operation Warp Speed. It's so stupid and it's so terrible. I don't know. It's like someone's sabotaging him.
Yeah, well, his campaign manager really believes in it. I mean, his campaign manager was trying to shame and guilt people for not taking the vaccine and was blaming any COVID increase on people not being vaccinated. That's who she is. I mean, it's horrendous. I mean, she's bragging in Politico about how she's running his campaign. That, anybody in Trump's world could say, hey, Trump, turns out you didn't beat DeSantis. She did. Politico told me. Just let him know now and then. Hearing those, but he's chosen the swamp to run his campaign. She was the one that said he should stand by Mike Johnson when he's betraying the Republican base. She's the one who convinced him that he should, instead of continuing to oppose Ukrainian aid, recharacterize it as a loan and support it. I mean, these are horrendous decisions, and it reminds me so much of this exact time frame in 2020. March, April, May 2020. And, we and a few of us were the only ones out there saying, don't get involved in the lockdown. Don't listen to Fauci. Don't listen to Birx. Don't shut down the economy. And I had a bunch of Trump supporters tell me, Barnes, you don't understand. This is 4D chess. This is going to be super genius. Everybody's going to celebrate him for it. He's going to get a bunch of votes for saving lives. I was like, no, he'll get all the criticism for anything that goes wrong, and he'll get none of the credit. And all they did was sink the economy and open up mass mail-in voting. And now he's considering repeating the exact same mistakes all over again.
Robert, if you saw me make a face like, ugh, it's because I just pulled up the Politico article to see what her name was. It is Wiles. I mean, Wiles. Did they put that picture up there thinking that are they trying to insult her, or did they think that makes her look like dark Brandon woman version?
The goal of this is a message to everybody in Trump world that she runs the campaign and that she gatekeeps for Trump. Tom Renz has been talking about this with Alex Jones. Other people have known this for a while. It's just when you see a piece like this is a way of broadcasting to the world, I run the show now. And because Trump generally doesn't like it when people make these kind of claims. So for her to make this kind of claim means that's the degree of control she has. That the degree of, to such, and this has been ongoing. If you are at Viva Barnes Law.locals.com, I've been talking about it now for over a month, really for months, that there's been behind the scenes a struggle concerning which direction Trump would take. And Wiles has been pushing him to go the establishment route, try to make amends with different aspects of the deep state apparatus, with corporate America, with big donors. And highlighting that he should run on how great it was that he did the vaccine. And there are others telling him this is a bad idea, that the vaccine did not turn out good, that you shouldn't take the blame for what happened with the vaccine, given that Pfizer lied and betrayed and violated their contracts. And she's won out for the time being. And it's showing up in the VP choice as well. She's the one pushing Tim Scott, for example. She's the one pushing out any kind of populist alternative. So and we'll see when the VP choice actually made how much control she completely has. But it's also not a coincidence you suddenly saw Newsweek write a piece that said, why isn't Trump taking credit for his greatest ever achievement, the COVID vaccine? Right, with these bogus quotes from these people saying, "Oh, the moderate voter would really love it if Trump came out and celebrated the vaccine." That's planted by her and her people, because she knows how Trump digests media. And he's like, "Oh, see, independent confirmation. I should be running on Operation Warp Speed. I should be running on the COVID vaccine." And that's why he's highlighting that issue and contrasting himself with Robert Kennedy, saying, look at the difference between me and Kennedy on vaccines. Look at the difference between me and Kennedy on the vaccine issue. I mean, the one, you don't talk about house. You don't talk about rope in a house where there's been a hanging. It's an old cracker phrase, Southern phrase. And Trump talking about the vaccine as it relates to RFK helps RFK, doesn't help Trump. But he really believes it helps him. He believes it's a key winning issue. And he's planning on promoting it even more.
It's a funny thing you say that expression is an old Southern expression. There's literally, I mean, it's cross culture. There's an old Yiddish one. It says, "In the house of a hung man, don't ask where you hang the fish."
Yes.
Okay. I just now I've drawn the connection, and I don't think I'm crazy. Robert, you'll tell. Am I crazy? I'm telling you, they're telling you that they are in control of Trump's campaign, because the similarity here is not accidental. That is time versus political, telling you who the most feared, least known political operative in America is. Well, she's in control of Trump's camp, and by the sounds of it, making him say stupid things that can possibly cost him the presidency if he keeps it up, because nobody likes that stupid jab, and to keep touting it as a success, and not just Operation Warp Speed to play devil's advocate or to steelman it. It's not just devil's advocate. It's not just Operation Warp Speed. He thinks that was a success. And
a great success, his greatest achievement. I mean, and he won't, when people in his family, people in his political camp have told him that's not the case, told him to look at the Brooke Jackson case, he's refused. In fact, he gets angry at them. And I know that Trump people don't want me to talk about this, that there are people in Trump's camp who want you to know that Trump is Jesus. He's perfect, and he's never made any mistakes. And if you ever say he has, you're evil and you're a traitor and you're Judas. How did that help Trump when those kind of people were telling him to lock down the country in March and April and May of 2020? Did that help Trump? Did it? It didn't help the country. Did it help Trump, or did it guarantee his risk of losing?
Mm-hmm.
Without that, he doesn't lose. There's no chance he loses. But there's some people who think they help Trump by letting him jump off a cliff. I don't think that's a smart tactical strategy.
Robert,
if they say Barnes is a secret source for Robert Kennedy. I like Robert Kennedy. I make no bones about it. He's a great human being. But if I wanted to help Robert Kennedy, I'd be saying, hey, Trump, keep making the vaccine your big issue. Keep comparing yourself to Robert Kennedy on the vaccine. Keep comparing yourself to Robert Kennedy on the lockdown. In fact, don't debate him on the vaccines and the lockdowns. That's going to be a big winner for you, Trump. That's what somebody who wants to sabotage Trump would be saying.
Okay, we're going to get back to Trump. Or do we start with Trump and get to Pennsylvania? I kind of want to do the Pennsylvania one while we're on Rumble, and then we'll end on while we're on YouTube. Then we end on YouTube. We'll do the Trump on the other one.
Yeah, we got insanity everywhere this past week.
You got two insane trials coming out of Pennsylvania, right? The woman who recorded the court proceedings is also
three. I mean, now three.
So you got Amos Miller. You got the two farmers, Rusty Hare and Ethan Wentworth. And then this woman who is now, I don't know if she got convicted, but she was standing trial for having recorded court proceeding in her divorce. Let's start with the really, I think what is really, really crazy. Ethan Wentworth and Rusty Hare, too. They're not farmers. They are technicians operating a company called No Bull Solutions, LLC, that offers ultrasound services to cows and or pregnant cows to see if they're pregnant.
And otherwise, they just help make sure that your animal breeding is working.
Now, they were hauled off 2.5 weeks ago, literally picked up by, I don't know, Cook County Sheriff or whichever sheriff.
It was Lancaster County and York County Sheriffs.
Lancaster and York County Sheriffs. Hauled off to prison, literally to prison. And on the basis of some warrant, I'll pull it up just so people can see how patently absurd it is, that was issued by the Bureau of Professional, what was it? What's the BPOA? I keep forgetting.
Well, Pennsylvania has its own state department because it's that kind of state. They have to have their own Department of State. And underneath it is the bureau that controls licensing for occupations, and underneath it is the veterinary medicine board. And that was these two guys have never been charged with a crime, never been prosecuted for criminal behavior, nothing like that, and yet they're in prison. In fact, they were not even named parties in the case. And yet that's how we're here. That's the insanity of it.
And so they were hauled off for 30 days for alleged contempt, uncured contempt, because they allegedly didn't pay a fine in a prior 2021, whatever professional investigation it was, for allegedly practicing veterinary medicine without a license by providing ultrasound services. I'll play devil's advocate and steel man, Robert. I looked up videos of cow ultrasounds. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't on the belly like with a human. They're sticking their arm up a cow's vajayjay with the sonar thing. I don't know if there's other ways to do it, but the ones I saw, I didn't even include in the video because I think people would say it's gross. But they're going up the butt with an arm and a prod. It's for identifying if they're pregnant. It's an ultrasound machine. They are, from what I understand, there's vets that don't even know how to use the machines because it requires a technician capability, not a veterinary license. But that's the allegation. They get hauled off because of this warrant that says, bring me the person, imprison them for 30 days for contempt. And you haven't been able to get in front of a judge yet. That's not an accusatory you. That is, say you get involved in the file because one of the wives calls you. I presume it's from the Amish connection, but I don't really know. Doesn't really matter. You're getting in front of the judge tomorrow afternoon. Are you going to Pennsylvania for tomorrow afternoon?
It's by Zoom. Okay. So it's going to be, so the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania took expeditious action upon our filing. It took forever to find out where and what the file was because the file was in secret. The file was sealed by the government. And so that's why I was like, how are they even in prison? Nobody understood this. Nobody understood how, why, what. And finally, we were able to figure out that there was a secret case being organized by the state government using the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth Court is a specialized court that handles civil claims concerning the government. They do not have criminal jurisdiction. They do not do criminal cases. So it's like, how in the world are people being arrested and imprisoned from the Commonwealth Court? And it appears the state misled the court into believing this was some form of civil contempt. In fact, they're still lying about that to the court. They're pretending there's a civil contempt order. Well, there's two problems with that. First is the plain language of the order. Civil contempt the way it's described is it's called coercive or contingent contempt. And what it does is it allows you to have the keys to your own jail cell is the language. Now, when it's a corporate entity, jailing imprisonment is not an option anyway. That you issue fines, but you say the fine will not be owed if you produce or do X activity. And X activity, whatever it is, has to be within your volitional control. What they did was they got an order of commitment, as like you would get from a criminal case that sentences someone to imprisonment for a period of time with no contingencies whatsoever. That by law is criminal contempt. When contempt becomes punitive, then it is no longer civil contempt, no longer within the jurisdiction of courts who only have civil authority. That's criminal contempt, and it has to go through all the same due process rights and substantive limitations as any other criminal prosecution does. And none of it happened here. And Pennsylvania is clear about all the preconditions. It gives you your right to trial, your right to counsel, your right to notice, your right to a hearing, your right to bail, all of which was denied them. And the way it happened was because the state tricked the judge into thinking they were signing something different than they were actually signing. And so it shows you how corrupt the state regulatory officials are and how, unfortunately, the courts have been too deferential to them too often in Pennsylvania rather than carefully scrutinizing what they're up to. And so these court we filed a petition for writ of habeas corpus before the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, which has original jurisdiction over habeas petitions under the Constitution of the state.
And that is I call it an emergency, but that is a show me the body when you believe someone is being unlawfully held, and it should be dealt with on an expedited, quasi-urgent basis.
And then what we did is we filed a motion for immediate release with the Commonwealth Court, and all we did is attach the petition for writ of habeas corpus that was being filed at the same time concurrently with the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania. That the Commonwealth Court, as soon as they got it, issued an order demanding that the state respond on Friday, and the state's excuse was to continue to lie. This is just continuous civil contempt, complete lie, just lying to a court because they got away with it so far.
Even still, Robert, it was for an alleged $3,000 fine that wasn't paid.
Well, no, that's not it. Apparently, it's still unclear what the continuous contempt is for. It appears to be a subpoena for documents that where other people would have constitutional rights involved that have never even been fully litigated or properly addressed or adjudicated. That's what the contempt is supposedly for. But again, if it's civil contempt, what has to happen is it says you will go to jail or A, B, or C. Now, there's problems with doing any kind of jail term. The normal is you say you owe $100 unless you produce this document and information. But that is not what this is. I mean, this is criminal contempt, pure and simple. They didn't follow the process. It didn't meet the substantive standards. The court doesn't have jurisdiction over criminal cases. They have to be immediately released by law, period. This was an illegal imprisonment, end of story. And the state officials were involved in federal civil rights violations of these two individuals, and they have seen horrific things when they've been inside. And they've had over a week to take remedial action, and instead they decided to keep lying to keep these people illegally imprisoned. And it's because the state agencies are captured and controlled by a corrupt group of veterinarian doctors. There's a corrupt group of veterinarian doctors who are using, and I say corrupt group because it's not all of them, because I have heard from vets in Pennsylvania that say this is not supposed to be happening. This shouldn't be happening. What is, you got this corrupt group of vets who are weaponizing their access through licensure of the state to go after their economic competitors, even when their economic competitors are not doing activity that's even subject to the license, because they want to monopolize certain aspects of economic activity in Pennsylvania, using the licensure as their ticket to do so. Problem is, the legislature didn't agree with them. The legislature, in fact, I've talked to and my team has talked to the people who are involved in writing these laws. And they said, we specifically chose not to include ultrasound as covered by this for this reason. We specifically said farming is not covered by this for this reason. So they knew it. And what it is they just have a corrupt group of lawyers in the state agency who are willing to corruptly use their licensure power to go after people that have nothing to do with the license at all, because by law they don't, and corruptly use their access to the courts to mislead the courts into doing something that violates core constitutional liberties. And that shows you how out of control the state of Pennsylvania is.
But so you get a sheriff that locks them in prison. What does the prison condition look like in Pennsylvania? Have you been able to meet?
These are two county prisons, so it's the York County Prison and the Lancaster County Prison. But I mean, I won't get into details at this point, but they have seen horrific things on a daily basis. It's psychological torture. It's being kidnapped in very undesirable conditions and put into even more undesirable conditions. Anyone who knows I've brought many suits against jails across the country. I have many pending against my hometown over the Silverdale jail, where the local politicians bragged that it wasn't Silverdale Hotel, it was Silverdale Hell. These are people who were innocent, by the way, who have simply been indicted, not convicted, and many of my clients ultimately acquitted. But they deliberately do it this way. There's some politicians who think jail should be a place to torture people. And this is the power of the state at its most dangerous. The ability to take away all your liberties, kidnap you, and put you in horrific conditions. And that's what the state of Pennsylvania has done to these two men.
Now, hypothetically, it goes well tomorrow. Do they get immediately released and they can adjudicate on the rest of the claims in due time?
Yes. Hopefully that the court acts expeditiously. They're immediately released. And then there'll be two separate sets of issues. One will be figuring out whatever this nonsense is with the vet board trying to pretend that they're supposed to be licensed when they're not supposed to pretend. They're not supposed to be licensed by law, misuse and abuse of power. But the other is clearly going to require civil rights lawsuits. against, I mean, the lawyers involved knew what they were doing was lawless. I don't think they're immune for what they did. And it's the same with the regulatory officials, the same with the vet board people who are involved in this behind the scenes, the same with the private actors who are colluding to cartelize, if you will, cartel section, the part of the economy. In this case, in particular, they want control over farming and they want control over Amish farming. And they want to say you can't do basic Amish farming unless you have a vet license. That's their goal. And they know the Amish don't pursue higher education, so they know that means the Amish would have to depend on these outside people, and these outside people would then be able to dictate things maybe different than the Amish traditionally do, and they'd be able to line their own pockets at the expense of the Amish, and put good blue collar people like these folks out of business. That's what the goal is. It's patently illegal, patently unconstitutional, classic abuse of power. And the only question is going to be, will the courts be able to remedy this situation or not?
Okay, we're going to go over to Rumble right now, but I wanted to just read, let's say, 3 tips over at Locals. We got Rusty Gus says, Viva on Stern giving Biden credit for the vax. Please let him. Geez, as soon as Trump wins, they'll be turning it on Trump as a pejorative, and they'll have to get the facts correct for their own fact checkers. Idaho Tater 99 says, thanks for assisting Good Logic with his First Amendment fight, Robert. That's what you're doing. And then, Robert, have you ever heard of Vin Jiang, an international keynote speaker who talks and teaches about communications, how valuable are communication skills and communication skills in any profession? We'll get to that answer after the show. What we're going to do now, we're going to head over to Rumble, end it on YouTube, go on to the other Pennsylvania madness case. I'll catch up with some Rumble rants in a bit and the remainder of the super chats over there. So VivaBarnesLaw.locals.com and Rumble. The pinned comment is up on the top. Ending on YouTube,